wanted to start off, maybe just like you guys introducing yourselves, what you guys do, name, kind of what your day in the life looks like.
For sure. I guess we can go down the road. Cody. I'm the manager here and I don't know, head curator, but curator for sure. So I just help kind of introduce brands to Tay and Savannah. I show them what I think would be interesting, what would fit our aesthetic, but also kind of be a unique experience, especially beyond LA. In Melrose, there's so much competition. So just kind of offering that unique space for people and giving the up and coming designers a chance to do something. So that's my main. I should be working out, no working out, just wake up, go to work, come back.
That's cool though.
Yeah. For sure. I'm Martavius, owner and founders here at Open Air. I am the head creative director. Obviously, we are all a team, so we all do stuff together. Always, no decisions made by one person. But yeah, I also design our clothing as well. And me and Cody both kind of curate, what goes in the store as well. So yeah.
Cool. I'm Savannah, co-founder as well, and I'm more so like managing director behind the scenes. And yeah, a lot of like conceptual ideas, just more so strategy, planning, that sort of thing.
Kind of stuff?
Sure, yeah, a sense of that. I think Tay and I work in tandem and just make about every decision together. So.
And production. You're our head production person.
Head of production.
When it comes to
like just say
our film and photo shoots.
I like to say me and Tay are almost more kind of like the face of the brand or the store, and then I always say Savannah drives the ship. Without her, I feel like, because we be wilding, thinking about any kind of crazy ideas, and then she's the one to be like, all right, but reality-wise, how does this really happen?
Yeah.
So
probably the most pragmatic of the group.
Yes.
Well, that's good because you need that too.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need both sides.
It's a great balance because I feel
Right.
like we're like the house on up. We'll go up. Me and Tay will just go up and up and up, and then Savannah's just like, all right, hold up, let's make this actually happen. So yeah, I think it's a really good dynamic that we use.
Yeah. I think the pie in the sky ideas though, kind of can come from all of us at different moments. So it's cool to kind of have that feeling of you never have that one ideas guy. It's kind of more of a group effort in that sense. Yeah. But Tay's our executor.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely gets a lot done all the time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So hodgepodge of roles,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I hope that was
That's good.
decent enough to understand.
Yeah, that's good.
We wear many hats to show.
Yeah. You guys kind of already answered the question I was going to ask. Do you guys think it's easier working in this kind of dynamic of multiple people kind of being in charge of all these different things instead of just one person in power, one person in charge of everything?
Yeah.
Do you think it's
What do
easier
you
or
think?
harder?
Yeah, it is definitely, it's a complicated relationship.
It's a roll of the
Now, I'm going to argue that no one, if you're making decisions on your own, is not going to be the best. That's just what it is. Especially if you have like-minded people like Savannah and Cody. We all have our own different tastes, but we all know that all of our taste is great. So if we all put our 2 cents in everything that we're doing, we're going to get the best result doing it that way. If one of us just thinks something's just good and then we don't have the opinion of someone else, then it's just not going to be as good as you think it is. Never. So I would say ultimately you need to work with the team in order to get to where you need to go.
And that's what I respect about them so much is that it's never really felt especially as someone who's started as just a sales associate and worked their way up, it's never been an overruling, no, we're doing it my way or my way or the highway kind of thing. They've never made me feel like that. So even since when I first got on, they've always made me feel like I've always had an opinion and that it matters and that they always take my stuff into consideration. Even if it doesn't go through my way, it's I still have my little part in that, which is always nice. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in any way where you can feel you're useful, whatever you're good at, whatever you bring to the table, you feel like you're of use, and you're not. You're not just there to be another cog in the machine and go home. It's feeling like you're actually, I don't know, a valued member there, and vice versa. So there is that feeling where it can feel like too many cooks in the kitchen, but we've always been a pretty small team, so it's never really been that. But I could see on a bigger scale that being an issue. So then you've got to have it more solidified, creative versus totally not. So
I feel like it's a roll of the dice because I think we've been pretty fortunate so far with everyone we've worked with that we've all been pretty one like talented, hard work ethic, but also like very open to working with each other. So like through this we've been able to meet a lot of people, a lot of teams, and it's just interesting seeing different dynamics. Like Sab was saying, of like a team of 20 versus a team of 3, a team of 5, how corporate it is versus how more like home grassroots it is.
It's a balance to everything.
Sure.
You guys are kind of like, you don't want it to feel corporate, but you like kind of the intimacy of having a small team.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But you need structure at the
Exactly.
end
You
of the
still
day.
need
So.
structure.
Right.
So just balancing all those different aspects, it's tough.
I would say the best compliment though that we always get on a regular basis is like, oh well, like which one of you does this, or how many of you are there, and we're always just having to be like, it's just us.
Yeah.
Like this is
The
it.
game is all you.
Yeah.
Next tomorrow, this is also it.
Yeah.
Last week, this was it. Like
Yeah.
so.
People don't necessarily always believe it, kind of what you're saying too. Like especially like
Right.
customers, they're like, like, oh, so like, like who designed this? And we're like, well, just us. Like, and then one more person, they're like, well, who designed it? Like who made it? We're like, we did. We didn't hire a firm. We didn't do any of that.
Right.
We didn't design it.
Right.
Like this
Even the space too. Yeah.
yeah, our space. Yeah,
We
like,
put like our
yeah.
100% into everything we do.
We've put literal like 14-hour days. Like we've been here to where we were here, sun up, sun down, sun up. Like we everything,
Right.
everything. Yeah.
It's worth it though. I think
Right.
having that grind and
Right.
being able to see like it physically pay off.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
awesome success.
Yeah.
Super interesting question. I hope you guys have an interesting question for me, or interesting answer for me. How do you guys all
Try.
connect?
How do we connect?
Yeah, how do you guys all meet each other?
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll start.
Well, we met first.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We met first. We're also a couple.
Okay.
So
We met in 2016.
16, yes.
Yeah. We had like mutual friends and that sort of thing. Our first date was finding Dory.
Yeah.
Nice.
My pick.
Yeah.
Tay said 4 words. It went great.
Yeah.
A movie day for the first, we low key. That is
Yeah.
a day movie though.
That was a bad
For
move.
sure.
Sorry.
And we learn. I've definitely done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we started our team off, or we started everything off in Long Beach, and pretty early into us opening up, Cody came in, and you can take it from here.
Yeah, I think mine is like kind of a crazy story. I always tell people, I've told you in the past, like I feel like I've really like manifested this, which like sounds crazy, I'm sure, but I literally, from working across the street, seeing them open up, being like walking by before they even open, checking the inside window, like what's going on here, what is this store? I was clocked in at my job, and their opening day, told my manager, give me 10 minutes. I know I can't do this, but like I just need to check this place out. Fell in love. I wish I saved it on my story, but I literally put on my Instagram story like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna work here one day. And then I would just see them. I'd basically in at least once a week minimum. Like I would probably like.
You were for sure, yeah.
Pretty
You were for
frequent.
sure a regular.
Yeah, I was a regular.
Yeah.
I would go get off of work, hang out with them for a bit, buy, sell, trade.
Sorry to interrupt you. What like made you fall in love with that?
It was everything. It was the aesthetic of the store. I'd never seen a store so like. I mean, of course, you go out here and you see it, but it's very much like, especially I think at that time in 2020, was very more like you see like a Gucci, or you see something very proper, and not to say theirs wasn't, but it was just a unique taste, like the concrete, the trees hanging, the leaves hanging. We had a Murakami wall where we had like all these Murakami pillows everywhere. It was just like, it was like a culture shock for me. I had never been, because same as to you, we were talking before this, like I kind of got into fashion late as well. I'd always had like an eye for it, but I never really dove in being an athlete as well. So like that was right around the time I piqued my interest, and like that was like the first thing where I was like, oh, this feels like, I feel like a kid again. Like I feel like actually just happy to be here, even if I don't buy anything. Like I can just be here. They were easy to talk to, like, and then we all relate because we're athletes. So that's like a really, I think a core ethic we all carry is like just being that, just knowing how to like maneuver through things, how to talk to different people, how to like do work and have fun at the same time. So we just clicked on so many things immediately. So I was like, these are my people. Like I have to be here. There's no other way. And made it happen. Now we're here today. So it was a crazy moment for me. Crazy.
I want to touch base. So you guys are a couple. How is that whole dynamic working together? I know like it does work for some people. It doesn't work for some people.
Yeah.
How's it been working through that?
It's good most of the time. I mean, like obviously we are a couple. You know, like we don't ever let the business side of anything like come into our personal relationship. We like made that boundary clear, you know, from the beginning. So I think, you know, when it comes to the business side of things, we handle that accordingly. Just if we were like normal, you know, colleagues anywhere else, you know, and then you know obviously our relationship is.
I think it's kind of like what people say about like when you get married. It's like when you get married, it is always going to emphasize problems, and it's always going to emphasize the good things, you know? So it's kind of like that balance. I think starting a business is like a similar thing. It'll always emphasize problems and also emphasize the good things, where you're like, this is why it really works, because we, like, where I lack, he's great, and where he lacks, I'm great. I feel like it's like a great business relationship in that sense. But like, I think my philosophy on relationships and business is similar. Like, it's a lot of problem solving all day long. So if you're able to communicate effectively and kind of just stay on like, where's the solution, where, you know, if it still kind of becomes that partnership where you're like tackling the problem instead of each other, that's ideal. So, you know, but I mean, it's never perfect. I would say people ask us that all the time, just about like what that dynamic is like. But
and obviously we're like emotional beings. Like, you know, sometimes your emotions can get in the way of things, but we, you know, we learn to just make sure, like, you know, Sal was saying, just be pragmatic and just not take things personally. Then you can really, you know,
right. Like our favorite phrase, Tay's favorite phrase for sure is, "I'm not going to die on that hill."
Yes.
What you got from me. But that's an important phrase, because it's like, if it's not that, you know, if it's like, all right, hey, I'll bend there, cool. You know, or if it's like, that's like 100%, I really want this, or I really think this, or whatever. So I think that's a lot about it, about that too, is just kind of remaining fluid and always being open to ideas. But I mean, I'd say it's similar even with Cody or anyone on the team. It's kind of like, you know, if you have an idea that you feel strongly about, or you're just kind of like, yeah, but this really is the reason why it can't work, or maybe, you know, but it's like kind of that similar thing that you can feel in the workplace. So I feel like we do a good job of like of separating the two, and then just still having that same philosophy that we have in our relationship as far as problem solving goes. That's like the main, I feel like the main crutch that everyone has to kind of get over. So. And it's never going to be done. It's always a work in progress job. So.
And we're always gonna have like different opinions too. Like I remember like like a week ago, I did something where, like, I didn't know how to display our hats, or like I couldn't find a way, so I hung the hats like kind of like on the hanger. The next day Cody came in and I came in like they were just somewhere else, and I was like, oh, you didn't like my idea? He was like, no. And I was like, sorry. I kind of feel you. I'm not gonna die on that hill. You know, like it's cool. Like even though I have my own opinion or something, it's like I like trust him as well to just do it. You know, I can't take it personally and be like, oh, bro, you don't like what I'm doing. You know, like that's how some people will be. But I'm not gonna. You know.
But a lot of creative work is about just leaving your ego at the door.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
know what I mean? It's like you can't take it personally if like that hat on that hanger was like your like
mega
life goal. Then it's gonna be a huge issue all the time.
Every day.
Where it's like, oh, dang, he hated the hat on the hanger. But you know, ultimately, I feel like it's like, well, most of the time it's not that.
It's never that.
And then you really realize it's never that, and we're on a floating rock.
Yes,
So,
exactly. It's never that at the end of the day. And then I think it's a lot of learning too, especially like with all our different expertise and like prior experience. Sometimes you're like, oh man, if I just got out of my own way and wasn't so set on that, they had the better idea. Like it actually turns out better. And so you can look at the overall thing and just be like, okay, yeah, this is great. Like I didn't need to, I could set my ego away and just know that we trust each other. We all think highly of each other. So it's like, again, like I'm not gonna die.
I wanted to, you guys kind of already mentioned it a little bit. I want to get a little more insight on like your guys' past experiences, kind of what paths led you to where you guys are at now. Like you guys said, you guys played sports.
Did
you guys go to college? Did you guys think college was important? Kind of what exactly were you interested in before this thing led to where you're at now?
Who wants to?
You gotta take this one first.
Okay. Well, I would say I played sports. Yeah, like you said, football and like fashion was kind of like always my thing. I fell in love with like tunnel pictures. Especially, you know, like Deion Sanders, like kind of the
league fish,
kind of like the flashy lifestyle, like NFL players. That's what really got me into fashion. Like I would say early on, especially in like middle school. I played football since I was 7 years old. So, you know, all the way up until I finished college and everything until I was about 2 years old. But yeah, I think just football really got me into fashion, and then from there I really loved watching Round 2 on like YouTube and kind of doing that thing. So by the time I really got to college and I was like, hey, I'm not gonna, play professionally or like, for my whole life, even if I made it somewhere like that for a year or two, I wanted something to do after that. So I was like, I kind of knew at that point I wanted to open a store and kind of take that route. Obviously at that time I was really into reselling and sneakers and, a different side of it, but I found my love through fashion that way. So,
And he's been the type like always into fashion and clothes.
I've had like 4 or 5 brands. So like even in middle school, I was already printing shirts. I was that kid that's like printing shirts and like having my friends wear them and like doing that, starting my own brand. So yeah, it's always been something that I just was into.
And it would be crazy if you ever get the privilege to see like just photos. You do see the timeline of him shifting his.
I was gonna say it takes them through every era.
Every era. It's
like all the big stuff, the colored skinnies, then like the ripped jorts,
the ripped jorts,
Easy 350
era. 350 era,
Yeah, that's cool.
I would say for me, I have always been into fashion. I also played soccer all the way through college. So I think sports had a huge influence on my interest in fashion. I think more so from the perspective of like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. That was like my favorite movie growing up. Like Space Jam, just like a lot of like basketball adjacent, like just kind of more streetwear. I also grew up in Long Beach, so it's like a very much like sort of like laid back, beachy, surfer, skater culture as like kind of a subculture of that. So kind of all of those things I think influenced my interest in clothes, but absolutely, as one does, had like my Hollister era and all that, which was a moment for the time. But I would say another thing too is music. I really love music, so I think a lot of just kind of all those like the what is it called? Like the pumps, like the Reebok pumps, Shacks.
Yeah,
when I was growing up, like DCs, like the big super chunky DCs.
Shout out for DC.
Like I was the kind of, like when you get a new pair of shoes and like you like almost can't go to bed, and then you wake up and you look at them and you're like, oh my god, I actually have them, and I'm doing that with like K-Swiss, so when you really are able to like get some really cool shoes, then it's like a different feeling, but that was always who I was growing up, and interested in all that sort of thing.
And we always have a joke too, like when we first met, when she was like, hey, I have to clean my sneakers, or I have to clean my Jordans, and I was like, oh yeah, like
that's when you knew.
Like that's the one, yeah.
That's when you knew.
So
Damn, so corny.
I know. It is.
That's
But it's a
cute.
true story.
That is so real. That's so cute. I feel
It took it down a notch. It wasn't cleaning James. I was cleaning my cleats.
Something.
It was my cleats.
Damn.
Something.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And then definitely similar, or not even really that similar, because mine fashion introduction was my mom. Like every day from, I can have a memory to like pretty much high school, every day she'd walk up getting ready. What heels look good with this? What top do you think? And then I think for her to like trust her own son and like me being like, oh, go with that, and then her wearing it out for the day would be like, oh wow, like she really trusted me. So I think that unknowingly trained my eye, and then even being an athlete in high school, did not care. Like I was cross country track, usually viewed as like the nerdier kids, kind of more, but I definitely wasn't doing grades like that, was not in school like that, but it was more like, I'm just gonna show up in my sweats every day, be chilling, be in my, I was wearing running shoes before it was cool to wear running shoes.
Like the same exact
right? Like
You did cross country too?
I track.
Okay.
Yes, see,
Yeah,
so you
I had
know.
2 pairs of shoes my
Literally.
whole life.
Yeah.
I wore like the same like Levi's skinny jeans, same like 3 shirts, and the same Angels baseball hat.
Literally.
See, like the way Tay and I look at it, it's like, but track has their steez, like the old Vapor Max.
Yeah.
Like you can steez out track.
But it's more sprints, because that's where I started, like when you were
Okay.
saying like tunnel pictures and stuff, like watching the Olympics around when like Justin Gatlin was there, like Usain Bolt, like all of them, like
Yeah.
and then when you start to learn about press stuff and like I forget his name, but like wearing the Oakley like that, and I was like, oh wait, like we don't have to just fit in this box of like were just wearing tracksuits and stuff like that. Again, we were wearing tracksuits before. It was not before it was a thing, but now it's like so like such a prevalent thing. So it started all like that, and then just over time, like, and I would just pay attention to like, oh, I don't necessarily like how this fits on me, but I still don't care enough to change that. And then once you get into like I had my H&M era, H&M everything from head to toe, and then you get into college, right? You start like, oh, I got all these girls, you start going to more parties, like stuff like that, and you're like, all right, let me like really work on this. So it's been like a steady progression, and then these fools for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I
They
will
see
say,
my crazy.
I will say
shit.
when Cody came into the store, probably a whole 180 different person. Yeah. Not necessarily personality wise.
But definitely.
But I think just aesthetically, yeah. But he also was at like a running shoe store, so it was still that more like that athlete background type of like, and real strictly like people would come in right with like knee problems or whatever. Like it was a little bit more of like a kind of physical therapy angle to the whole, more function than fashion.
Than fashion, exactly. Yeah. So when you're going to school, when you're going to work in sweats every day, and then it's like, well, I might go out with a friend on the weekends. I don't really need all these clothes. And then you start working here, and then you start seeing them dress, and you're like, all right, now I gotta come correct because I'm not about to be the odd one out here. So it's been cool to see their influence.
Yeah, and it's cool to see like your progression too, because like looking back at my like old Instagram pictures, I'm like, what am I doing?
There's a
what
reason.
was I wearing?
Yes.
Like, it's just cool. It's like, oh, it's like just seeing that progression.
Yeah.
Like, I had my Supreme era where I was wearing, you know, Supreme CBG and like just like Revenge Storms and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was hot. And I was just like, I thought I was the shit, but like slowly kind of getting into like, oh, like I like these colors on me. I like how this fits on me.
Yeah.
I like these niche brands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. I wanted to talk more about the store, obviously, too. Open air. How did that start? The term open air? What does open air mean to you guys? Just start with that.
Yeah, I'll let Savannah take this one.
Okay. I think it was kind of also a little bit of like a COVID concept.
You guys started during COVID, right?
Started during COVID, yeah. So that was like right out of our graduating year. I know you mentioned that earlier. I don't know if we answered that, but I did journalism in college, and I've always loved storytelling. So now I'm working more in film and doing that side of stuff, and I'm more so on like the advertising side of film. But I think through that, there's a lot of great storytelling there too. So Martavis did.
Oh yeah. I did communications, multimedia was my emphasis. So, you know, did like a lot of like literally like magazine layouts, which is crazy. Like I had a class that we did that in, you know, Photoshop, Adobe, like
film
different things, like film, So, you know, just learning
a little bit of
everything.
But I would say kind of in that time period, sneakers were starting to become a thing as we were like really like early 2020. And then I think a thing for everybody else.
Yes,
I want to make that clear. I want to make that clear.
It's been,
Yeah. Starting to become a thing for everybody else. I think with round two, like, I mean, we were just talking about this, like, you know, it all kind of started with like Flight Club. Riff, round two, and those were kind of like
they all kind of did their own niches.
Sure.
Exactly,
Different.
on the vintage and the community, bringing in like clients, and I feel like Riff was more of just like
Riff was like grails, like, you know,
Yeah.
stuff you're not gonna
Yeah.
find, like
Flight Club
like,
just had like everything.
Right. And I always remember that Don Kennedy lyric where he's like, "Flight Club is kind of high, but I would love some more." I mean, it was just more so like a knitting in the fabric of like being from LA and just knowing kind of what's cool, what's not, and always kind of just, you know, being hot on I don't necessarily want to say the trends, but like just kind of the it sort of like look or shoe or this is coming out. Like it's fun to like stay up to date with all that stuff. So I think that among a lot of other things got really popular during COVID. We kind of felt like the typical resale shop just didn't really, there wasn't a lot of emphasis on like more of the story behind it or more of the even just aesthetic of the space or the experience.
Substance behind it.
Right. Yeah. And I think Charlotte Witherspoon is someone that, you know, Martavis and I both knew, you know, before we even met. Not knew personally, but knew as like a figure. And he talked about that too. Like you go into a sneaker shop and it's just like people are just so rude or you feel out of place. And So, you know, we wanted just a space where people felt like everyone was kind of welcome, but we wanted to feel like fresh and new and also just different. Like, we've walked into the sneaker shops with like the Jordan jersey on the wall, and we've seen the cookie cutter same thing and the Supreme, the box logo and whatever. It's like you could copy and paste it, and it started to get copy and pasted. So I think we felt like we could bring a new feeling that was fresh and new, but still with that nostalgic. So that's kind of where the Air comes from, kind of like Nike Air, Air Jordan. Like there's a little bit of that like feeling of familiarity with the name, but still that freshness of like, you know, and it's still we're really inspired by nature and architecture and just like the world around us. It's less about just strictly like consumerism and products too. So yeah, a little bit of anything and everything. I know that's like a very smushy answer, but
well, I think that's like the perfect like brand name. It's such, it's like general enough where it's like you can just make it fit with whatever you're
right.
doing.
We knew we didn't want to do like sneakers or kicks or whatever. Like we wanted to keep it a lot more.
Because that just keeps you in a box.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, okay, well, we're only doing sneakers.
Right. And sneakers weren't the only thing we liked.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we liked clothes, we liked
furniture.
we liked books, we liked all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So
I think starting off, we you know, just like anybody else, you kind of go with what's hot, you know. It's like you know, being a trap rapper, or like doing whatever, you know. And like now, you can like Lil Uzi somebody else, right?
Exactly.
You know, or whatever. You know,
It's
so
a
it's
great
like,
example. That's a really cool example. I
Yeah.
feel like I've never like thought about it that way. It's like a lot of creatives in music, or if you're making a store,
Right.
It's like, you know, you want to start making money first. You start. This is like what's trendy right now, and then as you kind of grow,
you find yourself.
You find
you
Yeah.
find yourself.
Right,
Yeah, I think it's
right.
a really cool. I think it's a cool journey to see like how you guys have transitioned too.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk a little bit more about that, about kind of what made the decision to go from you guys were like a resale, basically
Totally.
traditional
Yeah.
resale store to kind of becoming more of like a retail store.
yeah.
Well, I started complaining. That's what happened.
Yes, definitely had to.
Fair complaints.
Yeah,
too.
and we were like wearing different stuff. You know, like it's kind of like we were saying, like we had the Supreme on the walls, we have like the bait, we have all of that, and it's like, you know, when I'm walking in the store with Daniel Patrick, Cody's walking in with Hayden and Cordon or whatever.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's like
Savannah's walking in with like a niche, like, you know,
Yeah.
or is it
Donnie Pizza,
yeah, like Donnie
something like
Pizza, or
that.
like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
like niche Instagram
Yeah.
girl brand, and we're not really wearing what was in our store. So I think just
It
like
started to feel inauthentic.
yeah.
And I think another tough thing too is like you want to feel like you're connecting with your customer. And we still would love to talk about like the things that we have, but I remember even too, we got these original 85 Syracuse Dunks, Lows. And it was dope. This like old white dude brought them in. He's like, I have these shoes in my closet. We've heard that all the time. And you're just like, yikes.
Oh no.
Yeah, like this fool's about to bring some Vans or whatever, which are cool too.
Yeah.
We love Vans.
But
Yeah, but yeah, he brought those in. It was insane. Like just the little skinny bogs and everything. And cool, we still have them here. But I think more of that. I was kind of like, oh, there's a cool like. There's something we can still kind of do with this, but feeling inspired by pieces like that versus like the latest dunk that came out, the 85th dunk release of July.
Like stuff
I
that has like a
was
story behind it. Kind of.
like,
Yeah. I
right.
think
So
when-
those little things that inspire you that,
Yeah,
that,
and I
that
think-
aren't the latest release.
definitely, and like she was saying, I think that kind of helped inspire too of like creating more of like having historical pieces like that, and it's like, oh, this could be more of like a gallery type of thing. And I think that kind of was like an initial spark of like, we can elevate this. Like she was saying, we can still keep in touch with the sneaker culture, but there's parts of the sneaker culture that can also be in, especially right now with when Virgil was doing his thing and everything, like the streetwear is so much now merging with high-end fashion and being the predominant source of fashion right now. Like, I think it was just perfect timing for us, and I think we saw it very early on and trusted ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Yeah.
just like went for it. I think, like you said, our interests kept changing. We saw where things were going, and we just all trusted each other. We were like, wait, we all agree with this.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it then? And then
And
that's
then, yeah, Daniel Patrick always got
shout
to give
out
them,
Daniel Patrick.
give them
for that.
they were our first like contract that we got, and that was like that really like helped us like get like Rose in good faith, like having a name like that really helped us. People trust us, you know, to be like that retailer because you know it's a mutual. You know, they have to agree to want to be in your store as well. You know, they don't want to just
Right.
put their stuff anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think like having that cosign really helped us, and like you know we were able to move forward.
It's also that like typical person who really cares about just if what they're wearing represents like who they are. You know, like you can tell such a story with what you're wearing. And like not wanting to feel like you are wearing what everyone else is wearing.
Yeah.
I think COVID started to feel like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like I know Tay would avoid wearing certain shoes because like everyone's wearing them.
Yeah.
Like the mesh shorts. and
Yeah,
stuff, like,
yeah.
when the mesh shorts are going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Like,
I was always like that. Like, oh man, I can't like
I gotta wear
can't
something
do
no
it.
one else has.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's-
I refuse to
that's
get
all of us.
handed.
That's what,
Yeah.
that's why you
refuse.
never see me wearing the same outfit once.
Yeah.
Like, the second time. Like,
Dang.
I'll post a picture
Well, I
on
can't say the same
Instagram
of it.
and I'm never wearing that outfit.
I'm trying to get like you.
Must be nice.
It's not
Like I wore
good.
this yesterday.
That's fire. No, yeah, I wore this last event. Like,
I feel on the switch up though. It definitely is. Like it's like at least if I wear the same fit, it's like I'm gonna wear a different shirt with these pants and
Yeah,
shoes.
Exactly.
You're not seeing these shoes again.
Yeah.
With the same.
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
pants or like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
for sure. So,
Yeah.
I think you kind of mentioned a bit, like you guys saw how the trend was going towards reselling and sneakers and all that super early on. What's your guys' opinion on its current state with, you guys did vintage and stuff too, right?
Mhm.
Like vintage.
Well,
And
I think one thing I didn't. Sorry, you could.
I was just gonna pick up on him. Yeah, when you're saying vintage, I think that's like that is something that we still do even now.
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
that's the one part that we do carry that I think is important when it comes to sustainability
Yeah.
and doing different things. We just do it a different way. We're not just gonna have t-shirts, we're gonna have the vintage Carhartt, vintage, Prada, different ways to,
More curated.
more
Right.
curated, a little bit more luxurious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still are on our vintage, no matter what.
Sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and I think that influence from like past collections and stuff is like that's what they do in fashion.
Yeah.
So vintage is like it's a, it's.
It'll
it's-
always be around.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's a huge part of that. Yeah.
and it's an interesting how like it is older, but right, it's like we always learn from the past kind of thing. So like those vintage pieces are always gonna be the
Mhm.
blueprint for
Yeah.
what comes out next, like all the
Yeah.
time. That's a forever constant thing. So
That timeless, like old with the new, is like.
exactly.
One thing I will say though that we didn't touch on from your previous question, that relates to what you asked is like the dollars and cents with reselling is like just day and night in terms of like wholesale.
Yeah.
Wholesale you're guaranteed that you're doubling your money for the most.
Yeah.
For the most. Depends on certain brands and their margins. And especially with us, things are like a lot different than that. But I will say, especially after going to Paris Fashion Week, it was like, okay, the margins are pretty much expected to be in this ballpark no matter what. I know
Yeah.
certain like big box stores and what their bottom line of what their markup is, which I won't say, but it's knowing that sort of side of things, and it's like, well, reselling, because people think, when you're not on the business side of it, it's like, oh wow, you sold, some shattered backboards, you made, 600 or whatever. But then it's like, right, it's like, well, I bought them for actually $650, so I lost money on those, but thanks for buying them.
Yeah.
So,
I think you quickly start to see that, like Savannah was like early on, it's like the name of this game you would see or you say like 2Js would really be like quantity.
Volume.
If you're not in volume, if you're not like selling quickly, then and flipping like next day and selling a lot, you quickly are like you're just not gonna make it. It's kind of like as soon as it slows down, your business is slowing down, and that's like there's no way around that. You can't contact another brand and be like, hey, I really like you and I want to carry you or anything. Like you have no way to pivot in that world, and I think that's a tough
Yeah,
part.
and or think about like Travis Scott. Like he releases some shoes. Okay, cool. I got like a couple from the seed that I bought off of. It's like, okay, they sold it. Like my customers love them. Like we sold them in a day. It's like you can't just ask Travis Scott to give you more. It's like the brand's high. Like you have a wholesale account where you can get more.
Right.
Usually if you
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I have a question for you since you're still in it. Do you think that the resale game would be completely different if we didn't have StockX? You've got this market, you know what I mean? And we didn't used to have that growing up.
Yeah.
It was like you had, like I always wanted Wolf Grey 5s, like forever. Still don't have them. I will get them at some point in my life. But it's like that weird thing of like now it's like, well, that's this exact number, So they're my
That's an interesting
hypothetical
question.
to you.
Yeah, I think StockX makes it a lot easier for sneaker reselling to be a thing.
It puts a price on things, literally.
Puts a price on things.
Yeah.
It's everything's just organized in one spot. You just click it out. But they have this. This is like you know, like when it was made, the, you know, release date, like this is how much people are.
The information is really great. It is kind of like a Wikipedia.
Yeah, you can literally see. I love on StockX when you can see like the days people bought stuff. That's like when it really gets like trippy. You go in there, you're like, look, you're like nobody's purchased this shoe for like 6 months or whatever. It's not hot.
This person's asking $600 for the shoe, but
The last
person's that's like, last sale's like 200.
Yeah.
Or the person, the highest bid is like $50.
Yeah.
You know, so. I think that's an interesting question, and I think it makes it a lot easier. But I mean, I think sneakers reselling is always going to be a thing. It was a thing way before StockX.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a thing after StockX if it ever disappears. I think it'll always be a thing.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I definitely agree because I think like especially like seeing resell, I think it like if you want to be in that, it awakens a certain type of person like with a hustle mentality. Like there's a certain type of people that get into that, especially when it's like Facebook era, like group era type of thing. It's definitely a particular kind of person. So like we said, I think that's always gonna stay true because like those people are gonna always be the ones to like keep that authenticity in because it's really about, they really love it.
Exactly. There's always going to be something that is sold out that someone wants and someone's going to sell it for a higher price than
Exactly.
That's always going to be a thing.
Exactly.
I think it will be as like, I don't know how it was a couple years ago during COVID. I don't think so, but I think it's always going to be.
Yeah.
We would always joke too and just say like, really everything is somebody's reselling it. You know, if you hate like a reseller, it's like, well, you know, technically these car companies are reselling. You think they made their car for, you know, $150,000? It's all for reselling.
Yeah.
So,
And it's like, wait till you find out about wholesale.
Yeah.
Like CVS got that toothpaste for 4 cents.
Yeah.
So,
it's so crazy seeing the background about that.
Yeah.
That's business for you.
Right.
So you guys mentioned a little bit about, did you guys do consignment at all, or was it strictly just buying?
Oh no.
Yeah, we did.
How was that?
Consignment.
You can tell.
Yeah, with sneakers, it was a tough one. That was a tough. Yeah.
And I can relate to you guys because like my current job, I work consignment stores.
Yeah. I think the thing that's hard is what we always wanted to do was a lot more customer based, right? So it's like we want this space for the customers. We want this to be a good experience. This should feel like a really cool like niche Nordstrom. This shouldn't feel like some guy just popped up a table and like you're like spending like hundreds of dollars. You know, like that sort of experience is like should be a better one than that. And in that, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that we had a store that was like, that we really cared about, that was like pristine and all that stuff and changed out all the time. It didn't matter because the percentage consignment wise, resellers also don't care, you know. All the resellers we worked with though, they were pretty cool. Like, it's not like it was a bad experience with them or anything like that. I think it just was the kind of thing where like people are always like, oh, what's your
low.
What's your gosh, they asked so many times, how come I can't remember? What was your
What's your
percent your fee percentage? Consignment fee, whatever. So if like 3 of the shops around us are 15, what do we look like saying 30? You know what I mean? Then we're not gonna have any shoes.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're low on product and you need product, then consignment's the way, but then that's locking in that you're only making 15% on every shoe, which is going to drive you into the ground.
Yes, and then also like not having the freedom, because it would be cool to see like the viral moments at round 2 where it's like, wait, how do you get him that low? How do you get Luke that low on a shoe? And it's like, we can't do that because I literally would have to call the guy and be like, all right, hey, they're asking this, are you okay? It just took out of the authentic experience of just like having a discussion.
Right.
So there was really no movement. It's like, this is what it is. And then of course okay, let me check StockX real quick. Okay, wait, it's this. And then not realizing.
It's always that's always been such a tough thing for people to understand. And I think it's just how customers are. People are going to come in and be like, dude, like, why is it the same price as StockX? Like, well, because we have to pay for our rent here.
Yes.
And it's consignment.
Yep.
The consignment's trying to make some money, and we have to make some money. And I have employees I have to pay. It's like,
right.
people don't understand that.
Yeah. Which I think is helpful for us because that's how everyone starts, but we started as the consumer, so we understand that even with brands we curate, even with everything we do, we always keep in mind of like us, of like, especially we're still under 30, we're in our mid to late 20s, it's like, we're still figuring out where to live, like we had that discussion earlier, so it's like, what's the point of carrying a Balenciaga bomber for a few $1,000s? Sure, it's a flex, but it's like, I want a kid to be able to come here and spend $300 but buy like 3-4 pieces, and then they.
And we were really particular on that too. Like, we didn't want to have super high prices, so it was tough because we felt like we gave the best experience. A lot of people said we were their favorite shop, but I knew that other shops maybe had more options, which at the end of the day is kind of all that matters. So it was that feeling of like, maybe we're not embraced in the same way that we want to be, and how can we be a better fit and a better mold for our customers. So I think that was like the biggest reason why we kind of changed business models in that sense. But it also opens you up for so much more like partnerships and community.
And connections.
Like Haven Court. It's like he loves that brand. I see guys come in, or even when he's just walking down the street and they're like, oh, is that Haven Court? Like, it starts a conversation, and like that's what fashion is supposed to be about. And it's not starting that conversation because it's a, $700 jacket. It's starting it because, oh, I also like that brand that not a lot of people know about. And I would say Cody's probably the biggest one in that.
Definitely.
In that space, but it's cool to be able to do that because we weren't able to do that with our previous business model. And it's cool to like, oh, we have every, or if we get like before like unreleased, whatever, like that was always like fun and whatever.
We get a lot of stuff
and exciting. Yeah, but it's tough to feel like you're really like getting out what you put in every day with like the reselling thing.
For sure.
Like there is that level of like no substance to it, meat on the bone. So.
For sure.
Definitely.
And I think, I was gonna say too, like actually speaking of it, Fugazi was a big, like smaller brand that me and Cody both like connected on early, and that's what like me and Cody were like, okay, like we like really see like kind of get the vibe of each other, like it started to like introduce like those smaller brands that we both knew, and like really saw the route too, but like where we could take it.
Definitely what Tate's saying. I think we got it. It was cool because we got to experience it with each other, being like, oh, like. He'd wear something or I'd wear something, like, that's dope, where is that? Be like, oh, have you heard of this? Like, no, I've never. And they'd be like, oh, well, I was looking at this, and then this is like, oh, wow, like, I would leave at the end of the day with like 10 new brands, and I was like, oh, that's so dope, and I was like, it'd be dope to do that. Like Savannah was saying, fashion's of anything, but fashion's supposed to be a community effort, like everything you do, even if you're a designer, you have your creative directors, you have your people that sew for you, but so everything you do is a team aspect, so like, to be able to then broaden that out to our customers now, right? Because now it's not just resell, it's not a particular customer, it's just clothes in general. We still carry sneakers, but then we have women's wear pieces. We have like a bralette, or we have a crazy like waterproof jacket or something like that. So it's interesting to be able to see like a 15, 16-year-old kid come here, be super hyped, and then see like that 40-year-old mom of the kid and still be like, oh wow, like this is really nice. And so to be able to like get a wider audience and be able to have those discussions. Like I've had so many, I never would have thought of having discussions with moms, kids, like crazy, just random little connections that we have. And because of that, we've been able to meet people from all over the world and stuff like that. So it's really just opens up the community when you have more than, like you say, you don't box yourself into one particular site.
That's cool. That's
super
true.
dope.
I know you guys mentioned you guys started in Long Beach, right?
Yeah.
You have a store in Long Beach. What sparks the move to here?
I guess I like to, if I was to keep it like short and sweet, it'd just be really like, I would argue foot traffic. At the location we're at Long Beach was not heavy enough. We did have our own following on Instagram, which helped us a lot. Also, the location that we were at was more of a food destination. So I think, again, like that was our first time, really having a store. You start to learn more about how important it is. It's like, oh, so many people are here. Yeah, but so many people are here to eat. They're not here to shop, right? And it's a different mindset that you're going in with when you're going to places like that. So yeah, ultimately, even if we did have the foot traffic, it's like, yeah, but they're just going to get boba. Then they'll come and look in here, and then they're just gonna walk out, And like most people also, I feel like in Long Beach or in those areas, shop out here. So it's like, you would think like, oh, I have this place in my hometown. But like, I think like Savannah said as well, it's like, yeah, but I could just go to, let's just say Round 2 or Cool Kicks. They have way more of a selection out here than we do. And then also they have way more shops to shop at out there. So they're just gonna take their, their money down there. And that's kind of what I feel like ultimately made us feel like we needed to pivot and how our aesthetic was and how our store was. We just knew like we could get way more eyes on like, you know, what we were doing besides just on Instagram or whatever. Because even people would come there in Long Beach and be like, oh, I thought you guys were like in LA. And we're like, well, it says Long Beach, so no, you know, we're like, yeah, you know, so we just kind of had that, I think, aesthetic that, you know, just, it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
It was a tough decision though, because
Definitely.
I think part of our business model was, like Tana always said, you know, growing up where we grew up, we were always had to drive out to Melrose to get this stuff, and it was like we should bring this to the people who are always driving out there to get it.
That's what we tried
But
to do.
then, and then you kind of run into, you know, other issues outside of that are just like, you know, well, the money has to make sense and the business has to, like, you know, we want it to exist and to succeed. So that move has to happen, and it's unfortunate. It's like, I think about it around my mom's house, like Trader Joe's did not want to move there. And they just were like, this is too much of a low income area, like we're not moving here. And like a bunch of them got together, like PTA style, and wrote letters to Trader Joe's, and they put a Trader Joe's in. And that Trader Joe's booms. But is it probably their best performing location? Probably not. But then it's also like, Trader Joe's actually is the cheapest grocery store, so it probably is. But I think just that thinking of it, right? Where it's like you've got all this like math and science behind it. We didn't go in with that. We went in with like, we're doing something for the people, you know,
Yeah,
bring this to
the
the community here. And I think, you know, with what we still try to stay authentic to that point is like bringing that real born and raised in LA vibe and like that like culture that's outside of just this street, of just these people who like fly here for a week, or, you know, have moved here from all around the world, you know, to try to make it in entertainment or whatever else that they're doing. But, you know, there are people here who like are nurses and do normal things and you know, are like pillars in their communities, and we try to bring that element of like that like more like street culture of just like the easy breezy like Southern California sort of like experience of what it was really like to grow up here. You know, and somewhere with you, right? Like Orange County, sister county over there. But yeah, I think you miss a lot of that in LA, and especially in West Hollywood. It feels really buttoned up, no pun intended. But it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't feel like that. I think there's something that feels off about it here, and I think a lot of the smaller like mom and pop stores here kind of make that different. I will say there's not a lot of chain stores out here. That is one thing that's different, food wise especially. But I think it's still a work in progress. Like LA kind of goes through its own ebbs and flows too. You know, like when we were talking earlier about people, I was thinking of Tyler, the creator, right away, and like same thing, right? Started with like the whole skate street culture thing now, and now he's killing it. And it seems like he's really came into his own.
Luggage cases and everything, and like to see the people respect him in a different way. And then even with some piggyback off Savannah, it's like I think in the back of our minds that's still a goal of ours eventually. I think it's just like a timing thing, right? Like going into it kind of like with this like genuine almost innocence of like, yeah, let's do this for the people. Obviously that'll work out how it's supposed to work out, and then you start getting into like the business side, the monetization side. It's like, okay, a lot of these people don't care about any of that. It's all about the profit. And so, and also especially too, it's a part of like, you want to go somewhere that like has a name. Like going to round 2 is like an event kind of thing. You can, I can post this on Instagram. I know some friends are like, what, or whatever kind of thing. So I think it's a timing of like, when we do establish ourselves and we do kind of make a name and kind of have our own say in the community, I think at a certain point we can move back and bring it like different, and something partnering, right? Like we're not that far away from each other, so maybe that's something that could work out. Just anything like that. So I think eventually we will, because that's still a driving core for us, is always community, always people, because that's such a great thing, like to be able to do that for Long Beach, and then you can be in. Because like you said too, same thing around OC, like Cypress, Hawaii, there's so many unique, talented people that are in the scene that want to be a part of it, that don't have the luxury to be able to travel to LA all the time and stuff like that. So it's like if eventually we can have that name, we will be the destination spot.
Exactly.
I think eventually we can do that and it won't matter anymore.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a future goal for sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about LA? You were talking about it a little bit on kind of like just the vibe that everyone gets from LA, and obviously I feel like you guys are trying to fit that general vibe.
Yeah.
The traditional vibe of how LA is.
Sure.
You guys are on Melrose, one of the most popular fashion or retail streets in LA. I like to think. What are you guys doing that's making you guys unique and stand out from other stores? Like, what are you guys kind of trying to do different than what everyone else is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think Melrose is a great place to start, right? I think a lot of people who are grew up around here, like came here a lot and saw a lot of its eras. And I have, older family members who tell me about, even the stores in the 80s that were here and whatever. It's crazy to think about, But I think just bringing that like elevated, still like streetwear feel, and you see that not a lot. There's some stores that are kind of similar, like a Kith or like a Fred Siegel maybe, or something of that nature. But there's little unique sort of like quirks to those businesses as well. But a lot of the other shops that are kind of like smaller, like mom and pop shops, I guess if that's what we would call ourselves, aren't people that are from here. I think there's a lot of East Coasters, there's a lot of people from Atlanta, a lot of people from the South. So I think it's cool to kind of have that, and like a lot of love for the East Coast too. But I think it's cool to have that feeling of like this is really what LA is. And hoping that our store can like reflect that more than people who aren't familiar, people who think LA and think Hollywood, people who think LA and think like just something that isn't reflective of people from LA, that's LA is a massive Chicano community, a massive community with all people of color, all the Vietnamese in Long Beach, Cambodians, and it's weird actually, because out here I feel this weird culture shock of like, there's just a plethora of white people that like aren't even from here. Like it's a weird, so you kind of, and then every time I go back to my mom's, I'm like, I was just telling him because I was there for the weekend, my brother turned 30, and just feeling like, wow, everyone is like, just, you feel like you're in a community. Whereas here it's like every man for themselves, who's gonna make it, and it's like, most of LA doesn't feel like that. No. And I think LA gets a bad rap because of a couple places like this and maybe like weird interactions with influencers, and that's unfortunate. But you can't control that, and I think people that are like moving here with like just the shirt on their back and trying to make it, that's cool too. I'm not mad at either one, but I think it's important for people to really immerse themselves in the full culture of a place where they live versus I don't know, just sticking to the same 3 places and like in their own little box, because it's like there's so much more you can see that if you just open your mind to that. And I hope our store represents that, especially with our events and our pop-ups and like the brands that we work with. We don't even have really a threshold of like, you must do X amount of sales or whatever. Like if we like what you make and we think you're cool, you're in our store.
Let's have some fun.
So, and I think that's really cool, like to be able to just like, if you think it can happen to a certain extent. Because there's a lot of red tape with so many other businesses and brands where stuff like that just isn't open. It's not on the table.
And I agree with Sab too. I was gonna say I think that's, at least in our position, being locals, being from here, it is kind of like not really changing much too. Because I will say, and not to like bash on, like it's beautiful to move wherever you want. I ideally would like to move somewhere else for a period of time, but like I tell people that a lot, is like you're meeting a lot of transplants who will like take on this new persona because like they're in a new place, they don't have any ties to who they used to be, and especially if you want to make it in like an entertainment industry, a certain thing. I always joke around, it's like in LA, especially talking to transplants, it becomes like a resume competition. It's kind of like, who do you know, what have you done, kind of thing, versus like, oh, like, I don't know, what's your favorite movie? Like just random normal stuff. So I feel like for us, it's really not changing that. It's just really just being us, but then also using our time here and all the things we've accumulated to showcase that, and just be like having like someone like Hood Baby, who's like born and raised from LA, me being Central American as well, her being Central American, like just little connections. Like she said, there's a big Hispanic community here, and so just to be able to highlight those certain things and not be like, oh, we have to have a high-end brand, or we have to have this super crazy like out of this world brand. It's like, no, there's a lot of people here showing that authenticity. And like, of course, LA, it's like LA, New York, Paris, like, it sounds weird to say you couldn't forget being here, but it's like, oh, we really are one of the fashion capitals in the world. So it's like, why not just highlight that? Like, why do we need to go to whoever else? It's like, no, there's more than enough here playing here. So it's like, just find the ones that make sense with our ethos, with what we think, and just run it, see how it goes. And like she said, usually when you're meeting someone from LA, it's a lot more of like a genuine connection. It's very much like just you're meeting a regular person. So yeah, I feel like we really don't, fortunately for us, don't have to change much in that aspect.
I like that. What do you guys think about? I mean, you guys go out to Orange County a lot. What do you guys think about it? Or even like from where you guys are from, like Long Beach and stuff too. Like, what do you guys think? Like, do you see any comparisons? Do you see any differences in the different areas?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of diversity in Orange County too that doesn't get talked about. There's like, you know, those certain hotspots like Fashion Island or like Laguna, and you guys have the Hills. Housewives of Orange County. So there's like, you get those media spins too that are probably tough. But I mean, the first thing I think of with Orange County is like the US Open, like surfing.
Yes,
which to you may be a little bit like stereotypical.
Yeah, I mean, we're a beach county.
Sure.
Stussy was born and raised there.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's, I mean, very similar to LA in that sense of you get the surf and skate culture, which I'm more familiar with, and Cody too. Entertainment aspect as well, for sure. So, had a lot of soccer tournaments there.
For sure.
That's for sure.
I just think being in this place like that, like I've noticed it in sports, anything, like just, and it sounds so crazy, I sound like a Californian right now, but like being from California and being in this sunshine state where you get, it's just so much more can happen, so much thing, like nothing really holds you up from doing that. So
you gotta be very thankful for what you have. I mean, you gotta think like I know so many athletes, like professional athletes that like lived or grew up or went to like the same school that I did. You know,
same.
Orange County or just Southern California in general, I think is just breeds like professional athletes.
Right.
Because it's the weather is perfect. Like
you're training year round all day. I like never really having to go inside. So I feel like a lot of that, and then obviously like media. Like there's just so much. It's just such a hub for things to go on. So
a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity. And like you said, like that something like that can get swept under the rug. Where like Stussy like started over there and just that and being heavily inspired. Because that's where a lot of my fashion comes from. Not that I'm claiming I'm a skater, but being around all my friends that skated, surfed, like even in our high schools, like surfing was like a sport you could do. Like when I tell people that, they're flabbergasted. They can't even imagine that being a real thing. So you're just around so much culture, so much business, so much entertainment. It's just a meshing pot for just everything. It really is kind of like that land of opportunity type feeling. So even though again you're met with so many obstacles, but there's just such a hub. And so with that too, right? I guess the sun I've met a lot of people from London will say that like how the weather affects them as people. So just with being sun, I feel like we're just a little bit more. Because when I've talked to people from like Germany, and they're like, the way we think is like, and not to make it blanket like this, but we'll think of every negative thing about how this can all go wrong and tell you not to do it. Where I was like, if in LA, like I'll tell you to quit your job and go pursue this niche like little dancing thing or whatever. But it's like because we think like just do it. We've seen there's so many stories here of people like whether it be someone like a Kendrick or like a basketball player, like people that have come from super low income, super hard spots, but that make it. So we just have that, I think, embedded in a lot of us if you're creative with like, I can do it because I have so many examples of people doing it. So it's an interesting place for sure.
And we talked a bit about like what we kind of see the future of reselling being. What do you guys think the future of like retail is? I know you guys are kind of dipping your toes into retail a lot more. Do you see it not disappearing, but like kind of what do you guys see like the future of retail?
I would say starting off, definitely I feel like if you're not like a multi-brand retailer, I think it's gonna get tough unless you really have those names like obviously if you're like a Maison Margiela, a Marni, you have those top names, and Nike, and of course you'll make it. But if you want to start off as a retailer, I think it's gonna get really tough if you just have a smaller brand that's all you offer because right now with trends going in and out so quickly, I think you need something else there that is going to keep, on the business side, keep money flowing in. Ultimately, also, I think experiential retail is very important. So I think like us here, like we're gonna have our cafe open in a month. Really bringing something else here, and we're huge on community as well. We have pop-ups, twice a month. I think you really need to do that in order to really make it when it comes to running retail spaces. Unless you, again, are already one of those big names, a Zara, H&M, those are going to be there. But starting off as a new retailer, I would say like making sure you're like a multi-brand retailer and just having that culture.
Just being open, and yeah, I think, I don't know, it feels weird to say, but I feel like it's still a really good time, even though like economy-wise stuff like that might be tough, but I think it's a really beautiful time to be doing it, especially after COVID. I feel like it's still
that's what I was gonna say.
Still a lasting thing of like, and it's so much more prevalent now. I feel like when we talk about just random people we meet, of like that experience again. Like we had a couple of years of no experience, and we feel like we all missed out on that time in life.
People were like more eager coming
Oh
out.
yeah, especially.
I think it's like during COVID, like even telling people that we're gonna open a brick and mortar, it was like, whoa, everyone's on Amazon, what are you doing? And I think that was risky of us because that was kind of true. Everyone was buying a lot of stuff online.
Yeah.
And I think diving in to do the brick and mortar, like there's definitely that element of like sink or swim and all of that. And I mean, it's obviously still like a massive like uphill battle always to do that. Retail's tough. People always are asking me that, and that's their opener, But I think there's just something to say for like brands are starting to like start leasing buildings again and get retail back. I think it's kind of interesting that work-wise for most people it's moving remote or remote adjacent, and people want to stay that way. They're like, it's a waste of time for me to drive all, whatever, but then they want to get out like you were saying. So if work is moving indoors, which quite frankly it's like if you're just driving an hour and a half, especially living here, an hour and a half to work on your computer, which you could have done at home, and then you have more time with your family, more time with your kids, or more time just to live your life, it's like sitting so many hours in your car, it's like just feels like such a waste. Like, what do they say? You spend like 20% of your life in your car.
Especially in LA.
At least.
If not more.
Yeah. So I think that and also the growing trend of like the third space, right, where people want a place to be that's not work, that's not home, right? It's like, whoa, wait till I tell you about libraries, but it's like that type of vibe, right? Like we could all, and I'm not saying that because I go to the library, but I should think about it, like just somewhere else to be, and I think people are yearning for that. So with everyone just on their phones, myself included, and on screens, like I think people do crave that in-person interaction. It's like almost like like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like it's like, you like need that. It's like
it's human nature.
It's like, whoa, I feel depressed when I'm in my house for 4 days on my phone. So people are like kind of, I think, coming around on that and just like, I know it's weird to say, but it's almost like a mental health decision too, to like get out and do something. And I think that it's cool that we can kind of provide that to people. And even with like Mad Happy opening up like a couple blocks away, they've got their cafe, they've got places for people to sit and hang, and people do, and I think that like when we went to Paris, that was my first time in Europe, and never did anything like that growing up, and just seeing how like other parts of the world just like chill, like they don't even have cups to go. Like if you order coffee, you have to sit and drink your coffee. It's so strange to think about.
There's no to-go plates.
Yeah, we're not. Like, if you want to-go box, like, oh my god, you might as well jump off a building.
Yeah, and like they were saying, like they don't notice like people even just like commuting and eating, or like you see that.
They know you're American if you're like walking around
with eating something. Yeah, and they're like, you Americans like just need to like sit down, and so. I know we're like a shopping space and whatever, but I think us having all of these values, I guess, so close to kind of like what we care about, it's only going to reflect itself in what we do in the future and continue to do. So that's, I don't know, that's something that's really cool to be able to do. And it's like always a creative decision, just everything every day. And Tay and Cody really live and breathe that, in a day to day. So. Yeah. Alan, you're more of a question.
I know,
I think to cap it, I think it is like, it's a really good time if you want to, but like with the advice that they've given is like, be open-minded, be ready to transition, don't think you know it all, never be stuck on one thing. Like of course be true to yourself, but always like I've brought in brands to him where Tay's like, like it's cool, like I don't know, and I'm just like, hey, like I really think this might work, or vice versa. They've done stuff where I'm like, oh, I didn't really see that, but then it's like, oh wait, that's like now our best-selling brand.
Yeah,
Clearly,
you never know.
Yeah. We all have our own different.
And you always got to learn your customer changes,
constantly.
and
Especially with trends, too. I think the fashion just world is just changing so rapidly.
Yes. And I think that like, if we can kind of fit ourselves into that like timeless, but like elevated and kind of like street and new and fun, and like blending all of that together, like, it's like, as long as the stuff that we're picking is still, people are still interested and inspired and come in and have questions, like, that's when you're like still moving in the right direction.
Can you guys expand on like experience a little more? I think obviously like, I know what you guys are doing to create a unique experience for people to come in here, but for people that kind of don't really know about you, but I know you guys have like a juice bar, you guys are doing events, pop-up events, like after hours events, like kind of what things have you guys noticed that you guys have been doing to create kind of a unique experience to bring people in and not just shop? It's like I'm just kind of just here to have fun and to go out and be able to meet people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say pop-ups, like, definitely is probably like our biggest thing. Just feeling like you do have that sense of community and people that are interested in this brand, and I think we hold ourselves to a decently high standard with our pop-ups, and always having drinks, always having food. Just, it's not just like, oh, we just open our doors and it feels like a half-baked idea. It's something that like we started doing the cafe for pop-ups, and that only will make sense with certain brands. If it's a daytime thing, obviously, and also if it's like that kind of fits them. But then there's other brands where like that would make no sense to do the cafe. Maybe this idea or So I would say that's definitely like our bread and butter and like main thing right now. But you could speak more to the cafe, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think I agree with everything you said. Yeah, and like really like our nighttime events, like you were saying, it's really like I think we kind of created this weird like nighttime shopping / drinking experience that I don't think like we weren't super intentional on like, hey, we're trying to do this. We're more just trying to bring the community here. But then in a sense, like people, they like that, and they started like actually buying stuff at nighttime, and it's people will buy stuff here and like put it on the same night, and we're all right, cool,
they're wearing out to the club right after.
So
it's a crazy experience.
So I think it just worked like that. That's kind of something that organically happened that I thought that we thought was interesting, and then from there we're like, okay, like nighttime,
we got something
seem to do well in LA, so like I guess that makes sense if you think about it from that standpoint.
But and then to kind of go back to your previous question, like with the open air stuff, like for me, what open air has like turned into, especially with my background, like I was going to school for psychology, I was gonna be a therapist with like planning on minoring in philosophy. So like open air to me means like open community, open, like anyone can come in here, whatever, however they look like, whatever their gender, whatever their preferences are, and just like let their guard down. So to be able to create those experiences, not just like hosting it and like, cause I've been to a lot of events where I'm like, oh, I don't even know who's throwing the event. I don't even see the store owner here. And for them to speak highly of that, I think that's very unique to have an event and to have like the people, we do everything, whether it's building this installation, creating the idea, all of that, but then we're still here creating that welcoming environment, going up to anybody, hey, I work here, let me know if you need anything, thank you so much for stopping by. Oh, I really like what you're wearing, like how'd you find out? Like it's just creating a genuine conversation, and then through that we've been able to get regular customers that like like there's this one, I was just talking to my mom about this. There's this one kid, he's a foreign exchange student from Japan, barely speaks English. He's been to the last 4 events. He's now him and my mom.
I follow him on IG.
Yeah, I was like, I think my mom follows him on Instagram. I think they're good friends. And then it's cool because even with his limited English, like my mom's telling me things. I was like, wait, he hasn't even told me this. Like he's opening up about his own life to you. And so then like getting to see all these people come together, and then even when we invite our friends, then they meet other people. So it just creates this like just genuine. And I remember
like that sense of community.
Yeah.
In a place where community isn't emphasized.
Yes.
You
exactly.
know?
Exactly.
I think that's something that we naturally do.
Yeah.
Because of where we're from and just how much we love our community, but then also to bring that and be like, hey, but this is, you know, you can like come say what's up, and we can all sort of coexist and hang and all that.
And maybe, I was gonna say maybe like obviously we're all like, you know, native to the area. Maybe like something I just thought about was like maybe just because when we're talking to people, we're not trying to like connect with someone because we're trying to still stay here. You know, it's like no matter like we're from here, so like for us, it's like we're just genuinely trying to talk to people.
Yeah.
So like I think
I'm like,
that
have you
is
seen
like.
Inside Out too?
Yeah, like it's the most fire dude. It's like,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't even seen the first one. I haven't even seen the first one.
Don't
Don't even see it.
Don't get me started on it.
Yeah. But it's really cool to have that like just genuine just place where you can just come in.
It's not like ladder climbing.
Yeah.
But it still is. I would say our events though are like shopping / networking
So you want
/
people to,
vibing. Like it can be all of that and none of that if that's what you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
and in a super authentic way. It's never like we don't look at like our RSVP list and be like, okay, this person can't come in, or we look at, so you're wearing that, all right, nah. It's like, if anything, sometimes we let in too many people, like, okay, now it's crowded and now we're kind of overwhelmed, but it's just like, just being super, just like, yeah, whoever wants to come is more than welcome to come, and then just, I think it's just a testament to who we are as people and what we like show to people is like, the type of people that are drawn to us in our space are also like that. So it's like, it's just always a genuine connection. So it's cool for me to see like 2 separate customers not even know each other, but then they strike up a conversation, and then it's like, oh wait, you know this person, and then you know that person. Okay, I can let my guard down and trust because I trust their judgment. So I feel like we can already have a way more genuine conversation than like you're at some like high-end party, everyone's wearing glasses, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't even know, like I don't even want to like get off the wall because I'm gonna be perceived a certain way. It's like here we've had everything to people are dancing, to people are getting checked out, like checking out at the front, where people are getting drinks, people are eating, like it's like this whole culmination of everything going on, and so it's just like a really like big event. That's what it feels like.
I want to say the only reason that this is happening is because I met Keezy like at one of his last
Shout out
events.
Easy.
He mentioned that he was carrying, or you guys were carrying his stuff here. I just happened to be walking down Melrose. I think it was like Margella or something like over And I saw open air. I was like, I remember that. I walked in. This dude was like, "Yo, basket case. Like, what you wearing?" And then all of a sudden, we started talking for like an hour, 2 hours, just about stuff like we're talking about now. Like, that's where we're at.
And
So
and those are honestly my favorite. Like again, at the end of the day, it's a business and we gotta make money. But I've had some of my best experiences, or like my most memorable ones, are like same thing. I talked to someone for 2 hours. We didn't even sell them anything, but it's like, oh, now I have a friend. Or like now I have a friend that's from London, and they're always like, oh, if you're in that area, let me know. I'll show you around. And likewise, oh, if you're ever back here, like we'll take care of you, kind of thing. And like it's cool to like we've actually had repeat customers from outside the country where like we're coming here specifically, or like we're actually like I'm literally on my way to LAX, but I had to stop here before I left. Like
that's cool.
And so like this couple who comes here and like they just like come here like maybe like once a month, and they'll just like come here like to our shop
and just talk.
From here,
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Just
It's
chill.
like going to their friend's place. But we're the friends.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be able to make this kind of like a homey environment, and like you just come in to kick it, and then you see some cool stuff, you want to buy it, feel more than welcome to. Awesome, of course. If you don't, as long as we have a good experience and you can like leave away, because like at the end of the day, it's like all it is with everything we're doing is just to like bring that back. Like I remember we got really fortunate to talk to Tyler, the creator, in person, and just like really just like sharing that same idea of like bringing back the experience to people, and like letting go of this whole persona, this online thing. We have to present our best selves. It's like, nah, bro, just come through and like talk about skateboarding. You're like, talk about your plant or something like that and just kick it and get a release from your busy work day or something like that. Like retail therapy, it can be therapy, not just buying the physical piece that you have this like your serotonin, your dopamine from like a transaction. Just like, oh, I get to do that and also talk to homies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just a complete,
that.
it's really fun.
It's cool. I don't want to put you guys on the spot right now, but do you guys have any like favorite events that you guys have done, or favorite like, people you've worked with, or maybe favorite experiences that you guys have had, moments?
I feel like all of them have their like unique places in our heart for whatever reason it may be. Maybe it's because it felt like everything was burning down, but we figured it out last second. Whether it was like, I think for us a really big one. Not to speak, we'll all have our own, but like I think Elwood was really huge for us because that was our first event we ever threw. And to get it from a brand like that, I think was really cool because that was like, not to be like, oh, we got them for, but like we kind of were with them when they started this ascent that they had now. So it was really cool to be able to like see what that looks like, see what a separate team looks like, a team of like over 20 people. And then like they were saying earlier, like this is a brand that we work with, but it's also, I can consider these people my friends. And so to build that kind of dynamic, I think is a good one. But since I'm talking, I will say Haven Court obviously was a massive for me. I guess just because
that was probably Cody's full circle moment.
Just for the interview's sake, like I started out as a fan of Keezy. Well, I literally wore his Hidden Pocket t-shirt to the interview for them, which is insane. We were at a resale store and I was talking about carrying Haven Court. Like we were still in Long Beach at the time. So to be a fan of him, to then go on his Patreon, literally pay money, and just like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but it's gonna like pay off somehow.
Right.
And then to shoot the shot and be like, hey, I see you're interested in the store. We have this store about to open up in Melrose. To go from that to following each other on Instagram, to meeting each other at Complex Con, then to complete the circle with like actually working with him and being in his videos, as someone who's watched his videos and now I'm in a couple of them, is like mind blowing to me. So that was very like, one, because it was cool to work with someone you kind of like look up to and idolize, but two, to kind of like I said it in his vlog of like, you really can do whatever you want. Like talk to anybody, reach out to anybody, don't care how far past that seems, like go for it, because like that was a testament to me of like the Kevin Garnett, like anything's possible type of energy. Like I made it happen. Like I really made that happen. I mean, with the help of them, but like it came from my mind and then I lived it. Like that like changed my life forever. So that was huge. And
so it sounds like you do have a favorite event.
That one for sure, and on Good Studios one, that one was cool because shout out Richard as well. Shout out Adam, Naomi, Isabel, Purple. Sorry, don't remember names, but that was really fun because that was like a genuine friendship. Like Richard is my actual friend. I consider him a brother, and he's given me a lot of opportunities. And so to be able to
you guys met because he was a customer at our store.
Yeah, and that's how we met. He was actually applying at Open Air, and then same thing. It was a genuine connection. Me, him, and his girlfriend just had like talked for over an hour, and then we became friends. He was doing a runway show at Cal State Long Beach. All his models dropped out. He was like, I just want homies. So he gave me my first modeling experience. He got me hired at Arc'teryx. So to be able to finally pay that back and be like, hey, now your first pop-up you can say you had on Melrose. Now you can say you're carried in a store on Melrose. Like that can take you a lot further. And then the other people there, Adam and Naomi specifically, I became friends with them too. So like to see a bunch of people under 30, all local to LA, Bay Area, and then just to see all of us that were a part of that program, it's like, oh, look at all these like wild kids. Like now look at the next stage we're at. We're living what we talked about that day, like, and to live that of like, we're not kids in school anymore. Like now we are the people making an impact in culture. Like, it's crazy.
Sure, yeah, and I would say similar. Elwood was a great event. But overall, like everybody who we choose to work with, we people approach us all the time to have pop-ups. You know, obviously to carry their brand, to do events. We are particular with who we want to work with. So I think like just kind of from that energy we give off and the energy that somebody else gives us really makes us particular about who we work with. So I feel like so far we've had great experiences. You know, obviously there's different ways everybody works and do different things, but at the end of the day, the results seem to come out the same. So I think right now either we're just lucky or we're just picking People are just, you know, got a nod.
Just doing good at your job.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, me.
I think my favorite event, and maybe not necessarily for the event itself, but was our one we did pretty recently with The Alchemist. We did
I missed that too. I'm
Yeah.
a huge Alchemist fan.
Yeah.
A lot of people love, but I.
Well, I had kind of this weird moment. I went to the pop-out concert, Kendrick pop-out concert.
How's that?
Oh my god.
Cultural
Don't even ask
identity.
how it was. It was
The
amazing.
most iconic moment in a while.
Yeah, it was great. And he came out to Euphoria, you know? And like that feeling of like, dang, the dude he made this song with was in our store like a week ago.
Yeah.
It's just as cool. And I think that feeling of like, we have like really heavy imposter syndrome. I feel like all of us, probably Cody included, of our store, and kind of like, because we were here kind of since the inception. Cody pretty early, but since the inception of it all happening, so to see it kind of be like, wow, we've reached, you know, like those sort of like moments to be able to just have an artist like that there, and like, you know, me and him like talked or whatever outside, and just like cool, chill conversation, you know, and all that, and just feeling like you're not as far away as you always feel, and kind of like, but also loving the journey and the process of it at the same time. I think it's like, it can feel like that, like, you know, sort of like hustle, pressure, but you know, just ultimately getting to do that, and then it's kind of weird, like half The Alchemist, half the Kendrick concert, and like that all clicking. And I told him, I remember I was like, dude, he was in our store, like that's just so, you know, that's
like
just
he
so
had
crazy.
an event, he did a signing in our store.
Yeah, a signing,
it's like,
Yeah, it was like he walked in and like won the shop or something.
Yeah,
Even
right.
that was more than cool enough.
Yeah, but he had an event here.
To like
and then,
interact with him.
Yeah,
and, like,
one of the number one songs on the chart right now is produced by him.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
right.
yeah.
And The Alchemist too, like, I mean, we had been big fans of him, then the Larry June album,
Yeah.
and all that, so it was just, it's weird to see people that you just like really admire or like listen to on a daily basis or whatever, and kind of getting those experiences. Also too, Thundercat, when he was at our grand opening.
Yeah,
That was cool.
Funny story, our security guard actually turned him away first time he tried to walk in, not knowing who he was. We were like, oh my god.
But yeah, and even the Alchemist one was crazy. Cardo
was gonna say, shout out
super
Cardo.
cool.
Cardo got
Cardo,
thanks
Yeah,
too.
he, you know,
amazing.
super nice
Amazing.
dude. You know, I thought like he, you know, Larry, he got one of our varsity jackets, and like he was like, you know, I'm gonna make a whole video. Went outside and for the open air sign and like make a whole video in the jacket, talking about our store, shouted us out. You know, just like super, you know, people who we like Savannah said, we just like, you know, I listen to him, his album Larry June all the time. So it's like I literally listen to bro like once, twice a week, and it's like he's sitting right here with my like our open air jacket on and like talking about our store. You know, so it's like, you know, like Savannah said, it might seem like you're like far away, but you know, you're not.
Yeah, those like defining moments that are those like reassuring moments. I think are like very much so needed in like the daily like grind of like all the other bullshit behind the scenes. It's like, oh my god, all right, cool, I can keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because you can have those dry spells where you're just like, man, and it's not even that business is going bad or whatever, but how we feel at work in general, that like burnout or whatever.
I was gonna say, as you know too, like or people will come to a store like ours and be like kind of just like eyes wide shut, just like super glamorizing. Oh my god, you must enjoy it. It's like, yes, very much so, but like it's still a job at the end of the day. Like you don't know all the things we had to do just to turn the lights on this morning. Like, and that's not something I even was happy with to do, but it's like it's a part of the job. And then all of that comes with those defining moments, like she was saying, to keep you going. Because everyone's like, oh, I'd love to work here, and it's like, yeah, you would love to work here until you hear that, like, I was literally here till 2 a.m, like, with my hand in manure, like doing different stuff, like, there's a lot of not pretty things to it that gotta get done. That's just how life is, so, yeah.
I think you guys have so many different facets of, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I think you guys have so many different facets of like things you guys are working on, and so many different ways to measure success or feel fulfillment in. You guys have, you know, like your in-person sales, or like, you know, people you get to meet, and like you're saying the whole thing with The Alchemist, like that whole experience. You guys make your own merch, so you wear it out in public, I'm sure. Like, I think there's so many different ways that you guys can feel like fulfilled. And do you guys have like a certain facet that sticks out to you guys the most that makes you guys feel like the most fulfilled? Or I know there's just so many other ways beyond just financial metrics to measure success. Like what other ways do you guys kind of measure success?
Mine first and foremost is always, oh, I've never seen this in person before. Oh, I've been following this brand for years, but this is my first time touching a piece. Like that kind of stuff is always my favorite. Or just like talking about the foreign exchange student, like this kid who has no one out here but himself is figuring it out, but can come here and feel like home and feel like he has a spot that he's always gonna come to and like just feel at home. That's always my favorite when people are just like, oh, I just love what you guys do. I just love being here. Like I can't wait to be at the next one. Let me know. Like you guys are doing so great. So it's either always like, I've never even heard of this brand, or I've never seen this in person, or it's like, yo, like I've had such a great experience here. Like thank you guys for this event. That stuff is always like, because community is everything to me. So to be able to, like, that's my main goal is like, I want our customers 10 years from now to be like, man, I remember that night at open air, like, oh, that we're still friends. They're talking to their friend, like, dang, remember how we met? Like, I want those moments, because like you said, that's like monetary, whatever, but like that's all physical. Like, that's something on your deathbed you'll think about, is like all the experiences, the people you've met along the way. And I just hope like at least one of those can be us, like into our customers. They can just have that memory bank, and it's just like filled with like warmth and just a good feeling. That's always my favorite.
Yeah.
What do you think? I got my answer. You got a think still?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'm in between answers.
I would say, of course, with the community thing, you know, absolutely. I think that is like a huge one. But if I'm really being honest, it probably is, with our brand, we have gone from like just this side, kind of like how you did say like merch, I feel like at first, it felt like that a little bit. But now to like a full-fledged brand, and we have plenty of days in here where our stuff sells more than anything else. And I think those are days, especially when Martavius comes home and tells me that, I'm like, that's really cool, you know, to feel like what you have on outside of all the stuff you picked that you thought was dope, they like that the best, you know what I mean? So there's like that feeling. But I did have this moment at this place called Cafe Nido in Silver Lake, and I was just like walking in with my friend, and this guy was wearing an open air t-shirt, like just sitting there. And then another time at a place in Long Beach, and this guy had an open air hat on, and we had already left for like a year. So just those little weird, like where you see it in public and you're just out, and you're just like, God, like, what am I gonna do, or what's this, or whatever. And it like stops you in your tracks almost. Like I'm always like trying to like take a picture of them, like what? Yeah. But those are those like reassuring moments, like I was saying, because the business is a massive risk, you know, and it's like so many times feeling like, God, why do we do this, or God, why, you know, whatever. Like I'm sure we all have with whatever part of life we're in, or like, is this the right path, or you know. So those moments for sure would probably be my answer.
Yeah.
In terms of our clothing, because I really do love what we make. So,
yeah. And even just to like, piggyback kind of like what Arthur's saying, that was definitely one of my answers, is just like when a customer comes in here and they're buying like our clothing, because that's something that we are really like, we've emphasized heavy over like the past year, and like we're really trying to go more into is definitely like pushing our own clothing, you know, and like, you know, getting things cut and sewn, like really taking that whole route, you know. It's something that I always wanted to do, have my own brand, and I think like now we're at the point to where we really as a team can really make that happen. And just to see people, like we feel like, you know, like me and Cody were joking, like you know, you think this is cool, like we really haven't really done what we really wanted to do yet. So like the fact that already we could go out and we see people wearing, like even we're in Long Beach, you saw somebody just wearing an open air hat. One of my friends, like Larry, a month ago, texted me, he was like, oh, like, hey bro, like I just saw, like, just talked to this girl in like Inglewood, and she had her hat on, like told her about you, whatever, like, and like, you know, so like when you start to really feel that, it's like that, I feel like that's like the most like accomplishment you'll feel, because people obviously resonate with what we're doing, you know, in order to be wearing that. So, you know, like
right. And it's cool, it's even cooler, and I love all my friends and their support, but it's even cooler, like, these are strangers.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not my
that's
mom,
the cool part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's never met me before.
Yeah.
Who has no like vested interest in you.
And they don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
Like, that's the cool part too. That's the cool part too.
That's funny.
They have no, like, you are the owners of the brand and they don't even know that you're in that.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of love that.
Yeah.
I would say out of all of us, I'm the more low-key person,
Yeah,
and that's like definitely something that I'm like, this is so on brand. Yeah.
And just being out, that's crazy too, because me and Hakeem, we went, like last year, we went to the Rose Bowl, and this girl had on one of our tote bags and like a shirt, you know, we're like, you know, then we're literally like joking, like walking up to all like nice stuff or whatever. She's like, oh, like, yeah, like, you know, so like, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like the most like, that's when I feel like the most fulfilled too. And then yeah, community always is like, that's just part of what we do, no matter what.
It kind of is the same in a way.
Very much so.
Yeah.
All right. I think we talked about a lot of positive stuff. You know, what's important to you guys. What's
Except for
some,
consignment.
what's like some negative stuff you guys have like faced over the years? I know there's not a lot of pretty things behind the business, behind what you guys do. Maybe like, what's a few memorable moments that you guys have had a kind of, or obstacles you've had to face over the years? Kind of what lessons you've learned over the years?
I think some things are like being over-promised and then under-delivered. I mean, I think we could all catch ourselves in that, right? But just certain times where it's like to the like almost like dotted line type thing where like, okay, this is gonna work out, this is gonna be great, and then at the like drop of a pin, like it feels like, wait, how did we end up in this situation? Like, how do we feel like we're picking up pieces, and why are we having to readjust? Like, what is happening, and like trying to figure out everything on the fly. I think that as well. Like, we all have different expertise, but right, like you can go to business school. I always say, like, or at least for me being a runner, like you could read an entire book on running, but it's never going to be as valuable as running your first actual race or your first thing. And so it's like, sure, we've had all these interests and experiences, but like literally trial by fire, sinking or swimming, learning as we go on the job type of thing has been like and especially something so unique like this. Like, you can learn how to manage a store that's like a Nordstrom's that has this, or like a Vans store that's been around for 60 years and they have this whole structure to you, and it's like, we create the structure, we figure it out, and obviously we take and we learn from other things, and we're always trying to figure out what works, but it's like, it's this constant trial and error and constant like going through the fire and like seeing what comes out on the other side. It's like a constant we always, every day we say, I feel like every day we say something, it's like, it's always something.
Yeah.
It's always something. Like, of course this had to happen. Of course this had to happen. It wouldn't be real if this worked out smoothly.
I've been there so many times.
Exactly.
Well, we didn't really talk about it here, but I do want to touch on like the break-ins was definitely like the biggest, like kind of like
Setback.
real setback is the perfect word.
Like a low blow.
Right. And just like, I remember I was actually on set, so I work in production as well, and I was on set, and I first day, like day one of our shoot, we had already like pre-lit and did like pre-stuff, so worst day for it to happen, for those of you who know, you know. But I got a phone call from the property manager, so I was the first one to get the news, and it was just like, what do? I called my mom and made her like drive over there. You know, I was in the Bay, so I was like 6 hours away. And then Martavis, you were involved quickly, of course, as well.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just brutal. And then the next week, and they had found a way to finesse into the door. And
not to cut you off, but do you remember when in COVID the TikToks of like how to break into Kias and like how to break master locks and stuff like that? I think that's a part of what happened.
Maybe, yeah. I still don't really know how they did it. I don't know if it was like
They didn't break a window or anything.
No. They got into the lock. But yeah, we had like full-fledged security. Like anytime that's tripped, like immediately goes off the alarm. And they cut all the power. And after that, they were in the store. We didn't learn the store was broken into. They broke in at like 3 a.m. We didn't learn it was broken into until like 9 a.m. that morning. And we paid for 24/7 security. So you can see how this got tricky very quickly. But they found out that we got broken into because a woman who was opening T-Mobile, like 2 stores down, saw like shoes outside the store, like just like trickling along. And that just had me hot, like right away. And so to learn of just like how much negligence was involved for all those hours, and also on the security company, why when the power's off is that not an immediate action that's supposed to be in there, that when power is broken that it's an immediate emergency situation, unless there's a power outage in the area. That's always like the caveat. Obviously it wasn't that, so it was like, hello. So just a bunch of, things that went awry that ultimately, ended up us having, a massive amount of stuff stolen. And that was, we were like half us, half consignment. I can't really remember if we what the split
I'm
really
sure
was.
it's messy.
Oh, of course.
We had consignment, we had the, obviously we honored some of those and we paid people out, at least back what they paid for their items, at least, that was the least we could do in those situations. But yeah, even our insurance, we learned our insurance at that time didn't cover necessarily.
Well, it never really covers theft. It covers like damage. It's like, insurance, it's always like
damage.
Just such a scam in that sense too. So that was brutal.
Fine.
But then, not to make this long story longer, whatever. Then another week goes by, door gets smashed. And they run in broad daylight. Yeah, like Sledgehammer smashes the door, broad daylight, and steal like 6 more things. It's mostly like our decorative like cause dolls. So we had a store similar to this, but with like just those added elements of like the like hypey whatever type stuff, which I hated. We always argued about that Supreme blow up
beach ball.
Beach ball.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, throw it away.
I think I still have that somewhere.
Yeah, and the blimp. It was just so disheartening, and I think that experience was very, eye-opening, but also just like, this isn't working for us, and we had like we were like a corner spot, we had like a fully glass space, and to install gates like what we have now would have been like probably like 80 racks. It was insane. So there'd be no way to like do it at that point, and we were on a pop-up lease there. We were on a pop-up lease there as well, so
and we had the another part of the reason, so I was just gonna say another reason why we closed in Long Beach was because of the break-ins that we had as well, besides just the foot traffic and other things that you're just that's what really the straw that broke the camel's back was all the break-ins.
Well, there was like that feeling of like we had his cousin sleeping outside of the store in his car on like 24-hour security. And even then, he said that there was like people like creeping on the store then that were gonna break in right in front of him. Like they were just like super overzealous with their tactics, and we were clearly being staked out, and we're just gonna continue to get hit. So it was like, what do we do? We're in a position where it's like we can't. It's like a rock and a hard place. I think that was a really hard decision.
And it's one thing like already like just being stolen from in general, that there's that like trauma behind that, but it's like this is their baby and it's in our hometown where we're trying to create this community and talk well about it, and it's like our own people are doing this to us. Like, what do you mean? Like we're working so hard to provide you guys this thing so you don't have to make this travel. There's a local area for you, started by local people. Again, the people stealing from us are probably the same age as us. So it's like, how can you, of course you're not looking at it, but it's like, how can you not look at like these young kids trying their best to make their dream happen, and then you're just gonna rip that out of us and like leave us in this like super stressed out way. It's just like it's a super like intrusive thing that happens.
And to them, it's never personal.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think the thing that's tough too is when there's the ball dropped by those other people involved, where it's like, dang, and none of the like safety nets we had in place happened to make any of that not like a repetitive and like massive thing.
Exactly.
So it's like it's that feeling too of just like, well, we know that can happen, so we had this and this and this, and then it didn't do anything.
Yeah, and then even us, like now after that, like trying to close up the store and then have to look over your shoulder and like just like little things like that you always take for granted. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have to do this. Like I shouldn't have to feel like I'm being staked out and preyed upon, and like, and then if I do something and then I'm the last one to leave that store and it gets broken in, now I feel like a responsibility, and it's like this is just so much unnecessary drama that doesn't need to happen. And so it was just it became a weird time for sure. It was really tough.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when you were saying like, it was your baby. Like I'm sure it's super hard to see something like that happen. I hope nothing like that to that scale's happened again. But I'm sure
Yeah.
just similar things with people dropping the ball or working through people saying no and stuff. Like how are you guys able to kind of just continue this thing and work through obstacles that I'm sure other obstacles that you guys have gone through, and it's just inevitable in the business. Stuff like that, it's just gonna keep coming up. So how do you guys work through, persevere through all that?
Yeah, you could probably speak to that too.
Yeah, I would just say I really just, or like us as a team and just me personally, like we really just focus on like where we want to be. I feel like that's like always like our goal. We appreciate like what we're doing now, and like also enjoy like I said, the community and like just having our events and doing that, but we always like are thriving just to be better. It's like we know like all these like little obstacles in the road are just that they're just little speed bumps. That's it.
That's all.
At the end of the day, it's just a speed bump. It's like, okay, yeah, this happened, but we got a longer road and we have a way like better destination that we're like looking towards. I feel like like we're all here, like we're all like dreamers, or like we dream bigger and probably like what some people would say that they probably do. Like we really have like big goals for what we want to do. So like I think when we look at it from that perspective, from a bird's eye view, we're just like, hey, like this happened, it's unfortunate, we can talk about it and we deal with it emotionally and like, but for sure, we got more work to do.
Yeah, and we have a great team, like, and I will say, I'll kind of lump them in, but I'll speak for myself. I think part of it is like an athletic background. I will say maybe a little bit of pettiness too, because it's like when I hear a no, it's like, all right, you're gonna say no for sure. Like today's price won't be yesterday's price won't be tomorrow's price. Like you tell me no now for sure. Wait till a year from now when you want to be in our store, and I look at you like, nah, I'm chilling. Like it is that competitive. Like okay,
Cody's our role dog.
Yeah. Like you didn't see it. You didn't see the vision for sure. I'll remember that. Like I'll remember that. I do have that pettiness, and oh yeah, for sure. Like. Especially with something like this, like where I joke around, like I'll get open air tatted on me, like it's something like it's like a part of my personality now. So it's like, oh, you're gonna tell me no, you're gonna tell my vision, you're gonna tell my family no, like for sure. All right, I'll remember that. Like, and that gives me the same with running, right? It's like someone, it could be your teammate talking like, oh, I'm gonna beat you today, or like whatever, and it's like, all right, let's get it. And like and we do like that. Even we've joked. I remember in Long Beach when we'd just like hang out or whatever, and then we have like a little like mini putt thing, and then we just go at it, and then we just be like just trolling, like talking mess to each other, like we just all enjoy that camaraderie and that competitive nature. So like I think a bit of that is competitiveness of like, all right, I got you. Like
absolutely, yeah.
Wait till you see where we're at.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that is what ultimately like even like makes our store what it is. It's like like we feel like we see something or like we're like we can do this. But then we can do it better, we get inspiration off of that, and like we really like try to always strive to be different and then also be better at the same time, because we just don't want to be, again, just another copy and paste place.
Yeah, with anyone who does sports, it's like, I'm not here to be on the bench, I'm not here to be the second lead, and that's cool for those people too, but it's like there's a certain point where you can really look at yourself and be like, do I have that in me, do I have that drive in me or not, and if you do, if you're really about it, it will like bother you that you're not where you want to be. And so like I try to like manage that healthily and not crash out on that. But it's like, yeah, it just like you said, it's never like, oh, like you're not doing as good, we're gonna do better. It's like, oh, we see what you're doing, but like we think we could do something and actually provide something else. So like let's do it. Like I'm not just doing anything to just like be like average at it. Anything we've done, anything we do. It could be as little as the freaking tag on our shirt. It's like everything we do, we invest in. It doesn't matter. Of course, cost always is a thing, but it's like if we can make it happen, even if it's going to be a bit of a struggle, it doesn't matter. We're going to go all out. We don't half-ass anything. That's just not in our nature.
I think also though, in that kind of you saying like when you get a no, like kind of how you react to it. And there's been some no's that. There's not a single no where I'm not like kind of grateful for it at the same time, because it's almost like then we wouldn't be where we are today. Like there's just kind of that feeling of that no kind of moved us to go in this direction, which led us here, which led us there, and it almost like guides you in that way that, I mean, even thinking about where we were gonna open here when we were deciding on like where to be. And thinking about if some of those other spots that we were interested in had ended up working out and we were there now, it would have just been a whole different thing. Like, who knows if it would have been better or worse, but like, I'm glad to be where we are and like happy to be here. So like those no's in that sense are kind of like, you know, okay. And if it comes down to like working with specific people or brands, like if you don't resonate with like who we are and what we do, then I wouldn't really want to work with you anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and not to say that it's like a spiteful thing, like, you know, maybe we'll touch base at a different time or reconnect, but I think it's like as you start to see them or what they're doing kind of move, you're like, okay, maybe that did kind of make sense, or hey, in the future they'll want to, you know, and like there's probably brands we've worked for before that were like sleeping on us, you know, which like maybe I would have too, you know, like I love what we do now more than what we did 6 months ago, more than we did 8 months ago, more than, so, you know, you're always kind of growing, and if you grow in a similar direction with like those artists or those people, then that's cool, but you know, if you don't, then it is what it is. So yeah, I think a big one though is our location, like thinking about we're gonna go like to this other area in Long Beach, downtown maybe, stuff like that. I don't know if you can touch on that, but
Yeah, and it is crazy because at least for me, I feel like to me, I've always said I think we're like poetically we're in a great spot, especially for what we're doing, merging higher end streetwear, the type of people we want to be around here. It's like, of course, we're in between Fairfax, La Brea, Melrose, all vintage, all streetwear. We're walking distance to Melrose Place, everything by like Acme Studios and everything. And I feel like we're like the really perfect combination of that, like giving both ends of that. Like we can have a $550 jacket in here, but we can have like a $40 t-shirt at the same time. You can find a pair of loafers, you can find a pair of heels, you can find a super distressed t-shirt, you can find a brand you've never heard of. So it's like, even though location-wise, sometimes you're like, is it the best? Could we have done this? But I think like poetically, I'm like, I think we're actually in the right spot. I just think when things around us kind of like figure that out too and get their things set, I think like we can really turn this into something.
Everything happens for a reason. I think I've always said that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think what you guys are doing is super cool, kind of bridging the gap and redefining a lot of things with retail, and like you said, I think it's so cool. It's like you're not sticking with one lane. Like you don't want to just cater to just one person. Like you're trying. You really want to reach a community. You want to build a community, and you want to reach out to so many different people.
Exactly.
Last question I have for you guys. What's in store for you guys in the future? Are you guys trying to open another store in the future? You got any exciting plans? Or even just where do you guys see yourself in the next like 5 years? Like what do you guys want to do?
I think a huge thing for us is kind of what I was speaking to you about earlier, is really like pushing our own brand, especially because we see like, you know, if we start to see, as we've seen like our stuff selling, you know, a lot, you know, more than even certain other brands that we carry and different things like that, then we kind of feel like, hey, you know, we have something going here and it's time to really like put our foot on the gas and like go for it some more, you know, like take that risk and like take those investments and like, you know, really push for it. So I think in 5 years, I just want our brand to be, you know, at least I would say on the Fugazi level, you know, or at least somewhere where it's like, you know, it's known in those little, you know, it's like if you know, you know, so, you know, I would say like really our brand to be established in the next 5 years would be huge. As far as storefronts go, I love, you know, the brick and mortar aspect. I would love, you know, if I'm fortunate enough to have something in another city, you know, I love Paris, you know, we looked in Malibu, you know, before, you know, a lot of different places. So like, you know, if that can happen, that would be great. But if not, I think just as open there as a brand, I would just, you know, want to keep this as our hub and like really push for that, you know, online presence and like community. So
yeah, I think building our really what our vision is, which has just redefined itself and like made itself more clear the more that we work. But being able to build a team around that would be cool. Have different, maybe not departments, but just, you know, different teams where we're kind of like
We're focused.
We're able to not wear so many hats would be nice. Because I think that probably contributes to like the most feeling of like sort of that like doom and gloom, you know, when it comes to entrepreneurship, where it's like, you know, you're like 12 things and then a sales associate, you know what I mean? Or you're, you know, so it's like, it's tough to kind of, your time is money, but you're kind of stuck in a space where that's like, you know, your lifestyle at that time. So I think it'd be really really fun to have people that like Tay could bring on, or I can bring on, or Cody can connect with him. It can make sense, and we all kind of can build something where we all stay in our own lane, which is how you get stuff done.
Yes,
That's my favorite thing about film is like everyone has a job. It's like you've got the guy who's just looking at what the screen looks like. Then you got the guy with the camera. Then you've got the guy telling the people behind the camera what to do. Then you got the guy telling the people in front of the camera. It's beautiful, like clockwork. The amount of things that can get done in one day is astounding. And I think I bring a lot of that energy, I think, to what we do. And you can only do so much with one person. So I think being able to, spread the love and have other people take on tasks makes them feel important, but it's also like, can bring us, elevate us to that, obviously always takes money at the end of the day. So, just like that slow grind up to that. But, it's weird. It's like I feel like we've had the store for so long, but then it's also like felt so short at the same time. So.
Yeah.
And like the grand scheme of like a business, it's like a minuscule amount of time, but when
Right.
we're here every day and talking about this every day, it feels like we've lived a lifetime already.
Yeah.
It feels
Like, I
like
have
two different
dreams about
lifetimes.
it.
Yeah, I've dreamt about being in store situations.
And not in a good way.
Yeah, no, sometimes it's like a bad, like, oh my god, I can't believe that went down. Or like,
Yeah,
But when you live it so much, it does, like, from Long Beach to here feels like two different life cycles. Like, it's insane. Like, and then it's crazy just us being more out here and being opportunities, and it's crazy for us to see each other grow as a team and like as people, like right with your friends. If you're with them for a couple of years, you have all these changes. So like for us to see each other change as people, as workers, as owners, as like creatives, it's been a very like unique and cool experience. Because like I'm sure we all have it, like we all have different friends, but it's like, okay, I can't tie them into everything. Like I have friends from running, I can't talk about fashion or about what's going on. It's like we pretty much can talk about anything, and then we'll introduce new stuff to each other, which is like such a sick thing. So it's really cool. And then I think last thing is like also in the 5 years of the community of like being someone like a Fugazi, being like the old golf store, like old Fairfax, where it's like we are able just to create a hub for people from all around the world to just come in and learn and figure out. Like we have so many ideas for events. I eventually want to turn this into things where we can do panels and have people learn how to sew from whoever, learn from this person who worked under Jerry Lorenzo, and they can tell you what it's like to run a brand, like doing different kind of like pop-ups and flea market type things where you can just like get this really unique experience. So like I feel like in 5 years we'll just have crazy. Like you see all this stuff now, whether it be like 2J's last article. Like you see all these events and like it's like they're go crazy, but it's like knowing us, I know in 5 years from now it'll be on a whole I think we could do something that no one's really seen before. So I feel like, and especially now, we've been doing this for a couple of years, so especially we have a team around us, we've developed so much more. Like the world, there's no limit. Like the stars are the limit. Like not even the sky. Yeah, we can go crazy.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see where you guys go. I think what you guys are doing is super cool, and I'm really excited to see where you guys go. Follow your journey. I'm super appreciative for you being able to like be a part of this journey in the first place. And I think I mentioned it off camera before. You can tell right away when a business has substance, that we've talked about, when like what they're doing means something more than just making money. You can tell right away if they're just about money or if they're really about building something. Like, you can tell right away, like you guys are about building the community and building like lasting things, that goes beyond just materialistic things.
Exactly.
So I think it's super cool you guys are doing.
No, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
likewise.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you for like
Thanks for
viewing us
having
in
the
that.
conversation.
Yeah, and viewing us in that light and like giving us a platform to be able to like share our story and just kind of like give an in-depth thing of us, of like people that we can't reach yet.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
it means a lot for sure.
Yeah, and you're always showing support to us too. So
Showing us all these events, come on,
It's
yeah.
always fun. It's always fun.
Super sick to have like a give and take relationship all the time.
Well, good luck to you and everything in your future.
Thank you.
I would say probably the biggest negative, and this is like so obvious, but we haven't touched on it here, is our break-ins. I think it's like, and it was all, we already knew that, I don't want to say that actually, can you cut that out?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. But I'll talk about the break-ins. Sorry. Forgot about that situation. I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah.
But I'll just start that over. Okay. And we're part of the inaugural issue.
Yes, first issue.
That's crazy.
Very exciting.
Yeah. When's it coming out? Do you have a date?
Oh my gosh. Everyone asked me this. I said, I think the first time I said, it's going to release in May. And then I said, no, we'll push it back to like June.
Right, and now.
And now I'm like, maybe like August.
It's always been cool.
Have you decided every other element of it, like who's doing the printing house and all that? Like how does
Mostly,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is all new to me. I've told you guys before, it's all new. I don't know how to make a magazine. So
Right.
I'm figuring out the operations
Right.
and the creative stuff and what goes into making a magazine and all of that. So
What's like your main magazine inspo? Like do you?
I don't really have one.
Okay.
I think like what's really important to me is this community. And I think that's why like I've picked certain people to be involved with, like you guys, or like a coffee spot that's doing events. Like I think that's really important to me is just bringing together a community, something really awesome, and bringing substance to something. Like
what we did when we just started was definitely looking at what brands we like and what they do, and like how can we tweak that and blend this and this and then bring this element in from this and kind of like then it's like whoa, we kind of have our own thing now because of that. So definitely look into some and like I'm sure you'll love it. I like a lot of like print and that sort of thing too. So just color stories and all that. So cool. Yeah.
I think it's cool. Like I think there's a way of bringing back physical media, or
for sure,
vinyls, or just old media, kind of steering away from like short, like not quality content. Like, that's what I want to go back to. I'm a walking billboard anyways with stuff I'm interested in. And I think it's same with all the people that are involved with me too. I think it's just like kind of collecting ideas and I like this and like that and I'll take that and put that in the magazine. So
right.
I'm just trying to have fun with this.
That's the most important part at the end of the day.
That's cool.
That's what this is. It's like being able to be here and just look and be like, I get to do this. Like I get to
that creative outlet.
I get to express myself in so many ways and I get to actually see it come to life. And then also like I get to be surrounded in this beautiful environment with these amazing clothes and then I get to make connections with it's like, wait, how is this real? Yeah, like a podcaster being like,
I had the exact same full circle moment with Keezy, bro. During COVID, Keezy was one of the first people that introduced me into fashion. One of my homies that, check out this guy's YouTube channel. Fire. Started watching his videos, started kind of like just like getting into fashion with him. He was the one that introduced me into fashion.
Same.
I go out to his studio and he shows me around like the bay the whole day. I get drinks with him. So it's like, dude, like I'm literally living like his vlogs right now.
It's like, it's
how
crazy.
This is insane.
It's like we're in this unique space to be able to like actually like live our dreams and make our dreams realities. And it's just like insane. It's
awesome.
insane.
I'm just trying to roll with it, see where it goes, have fun.
Same.
I think it's just super cool to see where I've grown to.
Yeah.
A year ago, if you would have told me, you're going to be interviewing this like store on Melrose, like you're gonna be like interviewing some of your like craziest idols and just doing all this mistakes that I would never.
In a million years.
It's very
It's unique, and then to see, like you said, to see your own growth and to see, because like I tell people that now that they meet me, and like they were a big part of helping me for that because I was always like I'm an only child. Like it took me forever to become social, and then now people look at me and they're like, that's like a big compliment for me. It's like, oh, I couldn't even tell. I thought you would have had siblings, and like, and for them to literally be like, that's what we hired you for. Like they gave me. I don't even think they know it. I think I've kind of briefly mentioned it, but the power they gave to me by just telling me that of like, hey, you do that, we like that, and that's literally what we want from you. Like we want to maximize that, and so like. That allowed like my personality to like blossom more, and like people are always telling me like, oh, you're always seeing people, you're running into people, it could be anywhere, and you're like, oh, hey, how you been? And it's like, yeah, if you met me 5 years ago, like people from high school they can walk by me and not even remember who I am, don't even think about me, like compared to now where it's like I feel like any of us can go into a room and like make an impact and like have presence. Like people have told us about ourselves like that, like we have presence when we go somewhere. I think it's because we're in such a unique spot where we get to be free and like be creative and like really pursue our own dream. Like we don't have a lot of other baggage that someone else might have. So it's a really beautiful experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity, guys.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah.